doing?
It's my pleasure to be here, Yoshi. It's tremendous pleasure to be here.
Thank you for making the time. And yes, let's start with the interview if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, let's go. So before going in deep with the questions, I wanted to ask you because I know you are a humble person. I can see this from your post. I wanted to ask you how someone that maybe in your real life that admires you and highly values you, yeah, and respects you, how will define who is John Spence?
How would you define who is John Spence?
Yes.
I wrote a blog on this today, and I think one of the key words in life is love. I
Love.
try to be a loving, kind person that helps people with their businesses, helps other people, and helps my family and myself. So I'm a big fan for using the word love in business.
I love that. Never better say that. Thank you so much.
Unintended.
Yeah, I intended, no, but okay, yeah, we need more people and leaders like that, right, John?
I
So
believe it very much. I
yes,
think it's a key thing, and a lot of people are uncomfortable with using the word love in business.
uh,
And it doesn't mean you're soft and it means you're compassionate and you care, but you still
mm,
hold people accountable.
definitely.
You've got, I won't call it tough love. I don't think that's a good term per se, but
Hmm.
it is showing genuine concern, compassion, and care for the people in your business and your customers, and hoping that they treat you the same way too.
Yes, definitely. Okay, yeah, it's like a balance, right, between the both, and one thing doesn't take the other out.
Yep.
So we can be accountable and responsible and still feel love. Also, and there is no other way. Great, thank you. And this is another personal question, just to get to know you a bit more. If you could wake up, John, anywhere in the world tomorrow, where it will be?
New Zealand. That took me a long time, didn't it?
Ah, that
I
was a straightforward.
boom, yeah. I luckily through
Yes.
my work, I've been all over the world, but
Okay.
without question, my favorite place in the world is New Zealand. The people are wonderful. The country's gorgeous.
Hmm.
I happen to love to fly fish a lot, and it's one of the top fly fishing spots in the world. But the
Okay, nice.
most important, and I'm a strategic partner with a company there. But the most important reason is I have a godson who actually in New Zealand today is his fifth birthday. So
Okay. Oh,
we
wow.
just made a video singing happy birthday to him. I don't know if my wife and I singing happy birthday to him is going to be something he wants for his fifth birthday. We did it
Happy
anyways.
birthday to him and congratulations to you, John. Yeah, and
Thank you.
your
Thank
and your
you.
wife. Okay, great. Okay, New Zealand. I always heard a lot of good things from there. I never been. And New Zealand nor Australia is a bit far. It's always been a bit far, but I always curious to get to know it. All right, great. So this is the impact revolution now, and we go to these questions, John, that are more, let's say, impactful and go to business and related to this world that you are in. And I wanted to ask you, if you were to die tomorrow, John, what last message will you leave to the world?
You become what you focus on and like the people you spend time with. Whatever you think about, whatever you study, whatever you fill, and I here's a little rhyme for it, whatever you fill your mind with, and whoever you choose to spend your time with will determine your life. And we would
Okay.
go back and look at obviously the first word I said, love. I'd want to be remembered for being a loving, kind person. But the best piece of advice would be look at think about who you choose to spend your life with and how you choose to spend your precious time.
All right. Wow. Yeah. So it's like you become the person who you surround with. Yeah. Something
Mm-hmm.
like that. All right.
Yep,
I like that. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
my pleasure.
I wanted to ask you as well, what has been, John, your best investment, even time, energy, or whatever in your life so
There's
far?
been many. I mean, my
Yes.
marriage and other things are obviously a very very important investment from sort of a business standpoint. It's been reading and reading, and now YouTube videos, LinkedIn Live, podcasts, all the other ways that you can get information. But reading has been a major foundation of my career and my life.
I admire your reading, you know this, and I follow one of your recommendations, and I love the book you recommend me once. And I want it now. Yeah, finally, already I can ask you, how do you manage, John, to read such a high count of books? You know, like it's 100 per year, you say, and it's like two per week, basically.
Yeah, I've been reading about 100 business books a year since 1989. So part of it, I will admit, well, part of it you have to understand is my job. Is I
Hmm.
spend an hour to 2 hours a day reading business books, business magazines, listening to podcasts, all that sort of stuff, because I see it as part of my career.
Hmm.
I don't watch TV or movies very much at all.
Yes.
Although I don't refuse, but 90% of the time I will not read business books in my home. I read philosophy or poetry or a little bit of fiction. I'm reading some new books now by Tom Morris, who's an
Hmm.
amazing philosopher, and he's
Okay.
also written a series of fiction books that I'm loving. But and then there's a couple of other things, Yoshi. Is
Yes.
I read on the same topics a lot: leadership, strategy, high performance teams. And what I
Okay.
find out is I
Yes.
don't have to read an entire book. I'll run
Hmm.
across stories that I already know. Here's Steve Jobs when he started Apple. Well, I
Uh,
I know the people there. I've met him. So and I've read the story 100 times, so I can skip past a little bit of it. I do read very fast, and I read with a very clear goal in mind, which is to learn something that I can teach and apply. And the other thing I'm looking for is a pattern. People
hmm.
ask me all the time, don't the books get redundant? I mean, if you read, which I have read, probably 200 books on leadership, 200, maybe 300, uh, don't they all sound the same? And I go, yeah, many of them do, which is great because now I understand the pattern. If I read 90,000 pages on leadership and I see the same themes over and over again, plus all my work with, doing consulting and working with companies as an executive coach. When I put all that together and there's a clear pattern, then I've figured out, I figure that I probably know a pretty good foundational level of what that topic is covering. So I've done that with several topics. And if I get a
Okay.
client that asks me for something new, I just do the same thing. I dig in and read 20 or 30 books, do research, and then I add it with obviously my own experience. I learned a long time ago that I can't depend on just other people's knowledge, that I
Hmm.
have to make sure that I focus on who I'm working with, what I'm learning, the companies I've run, the companies I've owned, and then put
Sure.
those two things together.
All right, great. So you say very interesting things there. So identify the pattern. It's like Steve just says, connecting the dots of all the books that you read, and make it your own critical thinking and assumptions, and identify that pattern. And then with reading with a focused goal, and basically a practical or pragmatic approach that you can practice it and apply it for the benefit of your clients.
Yeah,
Great.
go
Yes.
ahead.
No, no, no. So I
I
was
was going
done.
to say there's two elements to that. Number one is one of the cores of expertise in any area or strategic thinking is pattern recognition. When
Hmm.
you look at the top 1% of people in any endeavor in the world, sports, art, music, business, the reason that they're exceptional at what they do is they've spent. There's 4 P's to expert performance: passion. You got to love what you do.
Hmm.
Patience. It takes a long time to be among the best in the world, top 1% in the world. A lot of the research shows 10 years or 10,000 hours. That Malcolm Gladwell put that out. The next thing is practice. And
Hmm.
it's a special kind of practice called deliberate practice. You've got a coach, you've got a mentor, you've got a trainer, you've got a colleague pushing you to get better and better. And then when you do those 3 things, it leads to pattern recognition.
Mm.
And if you study really, really accomplished people, they usually have found a way to understand the pattern better than other people. And then on the books, I'll tell you a very quick story about that. At a
I love
young
that.
age, I became CEO of one of the Rockefeller Foundations,
26,
and
right?
26. And Mr. Rockefeller was kind enough to assign a mentor to me, a gentleman named Charlie Owen. And this is one of the ways I learned to read a lot. Is every Monday, Charlie would walk in my office and put a business book on my desk and say, "You will make a book report on this on Friday." So I had 1 week to read it. And then on Friday, I would make the book report, but he would say, okay, great, you learned this. He'd ask me about your questions. So then he asked me a really unique question. All right,
Hmm.
John, what are the three things you're going to do differently? What are the three action steps you're going to take as a result of reading that book? And he changed the way and then he would write it down and say, you will now be held accountable for this in your job. And I
Hmm.
learned not just to read a book to understand the information, but to take it out and apply it, which was a great learning from Charlie.
Definitely, definitely. I'll take that. Definitely, I love what you just shared, and you know the rules or the pathway to excellence as well. This about patience, and deliver practice, and identify the patterns. So great. Thank you for sharing that. I also was curious always. You know, you are a great mentor. I read the article about mentorship and you know about the agreement between mentors and mentees, and you just described one of your big mentors. I wanted to know who has been or who, or if there is various people that has got more impact or more influence in your life, John, and how they did it.
There's been a couple of people, and I think the most important one is one of my college professors named Roger Strickland. And
Okay,
I failed out of college on the first try,
okay,
and I had to go to community college, lower level college here in the United States in order to get into the University of Florida, where I eventually graduated in the top 3 or 4 of the United States in my major. And my college professor, Roger, heard me saying one day in class that I had to get straight A's to get into the university. He said, it's very simple. There's only 3 things it takes to do well in college. And I think these work in life as well.
okay.
Number one is read the books. He said,
Hmm.
at least in college, 99% of the answers are in the books. So if you just read and study, at least in college, you'll probably do well. I know that now all of the answers aren't in the books or the YouTube videos or podcasts, but the information you need to find the answers or develop the answers are there someplace. So number
Yes.
one was read the books. Number two was ask for help. He said, ask the professors, ask the teaching assistants, ask the other students, ask everybody in sight for help. A lot of people think it's weak or vulnerable when you go, I don't know how to do this, I need help. The smartest, most successful people I've ever met in my life are superb at asking for help, advice, input, suggestions, and then taking all that information and making a great decision. So ask for help. Then the third one is start study groups. And as I did, and my study group did really well. And then when I graduated, I started what's called a mastermind group, which many of the listeners probably know,
Hmm.
for young CEOs. Then I
Okay.
started another one after that when I moved of another group, and I still have a group, a mastermind group I belong to, a study group at 58 years old of CEOs that we get together and we do book reports and we have guest speakers and we talk about our businesses and help each other. So that's part of that idea of you become what you focus on and like the people you spend time with. That I believe that lasts for your entire life.
That's great. That's great. I'm very curious now. You know, thank you for sharing this. It's really powerful, John. About the mastermind groups, the ones that you are currently on, how does it work exactly?
Well, there's 2 levels. I mean, a lot of professionals have mastermind groups. So there's organizations that are large mastermind groups that you join. But for
Sure.
me, I've always done this is I find 1 or 2 people or 3 people that I really respect and admire and I want to learn from.
Yes.
And I say, let's start a mastermind group. And basically what we do is it's changed since COVID a little bit, but about every 45 days, we would get together at somebody's house
45, yes.
and we would have an agenda. And the rule was, or the rule is, come in for a little while, maybe have a glass of wine or something. And then for about 2 hours, we're gonna hit a topic, or we're gonna help one of the people in the group that says I'm struggling with my business, and we all jump in there and help as much as we can. Or like I said, we get a guest speaker. And the way I put them together is I get a couple people I admire, and then I say, will you please invite someone that you really look up to that you'd like to learn from? So that gets it out of my circle. So now I'm getting someone
Uh,
I've never met before. And the groups are usually 12, 15 people.
okay.
And we've got some rules. You have to show up for meetings. You're only allowed to miss 2 a year. You've got to do your homework. You've got to be well prepared. It's a fairly serious thing. And if you don't do your part and take it seriously, as I
Seriously.
just
Uh-huh.
said,
Yes.
then you won't be invited back to be in the group next year.
Sure. Okay. Very nice. Very nice. Love it. Yeah. And what was the biggest lesson learned that may you have taken from these mastermind groups, John?
Well, the mastermind groups would be the power of vulnerability,
Okay.
of being in front of that group who are all very, very accomplished people, CEOs of companies, incredibly intelligent people, and just saying, I have no idea. I don't understand this. I need someone to explain it to me. I need help here. I'm in over my head. And to be able to,
Uh-huh.
in front of a group of people you respect, admire, to admit, I'm completely lost and I don't understand what's going on here. Could someone please help me? It took a while for me to learn that. When I was very, very
Uh,
young, I was super confident that I really knew what I was doing. As I've gotten older, I've learned that I need a lot of help. And for every book I read, there's 3 more that it recommends that I need to read. So I realize
yes.
how little I know every year.
It's always like a change that is exponential change that it never stops growing. Love it. I will have never imagined about this power of vulnerability from this mastermind group, but that's amazing. That's amazing. You mentioned something about in the college, yes? So it was two mentors, you say. One was the professor, and the other one, did you mention it or I?
Would be Charlie Owen, the gentleman that made me read the book
Ah,
every week.
okay, the same guy.
Charlie
Okay.
also did something that was really interesting is he would call me and say, we're going to go negotiate a $300 million deal. You're going to come along with us, sit in the back of the room. You can't say anything. Just take notes. And I would take notes for hours while he and very, very, very accomplished billionaires did deals and things. And then afterwards, he would say, all right, what did you learn? What did we do wrong? What did they do wrong? What did we do right? What have you said? What questions would you have asked? So not only did he make me read and learn and stuff, but he put me in situations and said, sit here and watch and learn. And then we're going to do a debrief, and together we'll figure out what you learned and how we might be able to have. And he did one other thing too, is he allowed me to make some really big mistakes when I
Mhm.
was running that Rockefeller Foundation. I ran with him. Some mistakes that were costly, and he knew they were going to be, but they taught me really big lessons about what not to do in the future.
Great. Okay, this Charlie Owen sounds like a really good mentor, eh? Since a young age, he got you the best experience he could provide to you, basically.
Yep.
And thank you for sharing about these failures or mistakes that you have done, and the bigger lessons learned. And someone that has experience like you, it has to have done so many things, all right? And I wanted to ask you about this particular, topic of failures or mistakes. What will be the biggest failures or your favorite failure that in your life that has made you learn the most?
Probably the biggest one was failing out of college on the first try.
Hmm.
I grew up in
Okay.
Miami, Florida, and my
Yes.
father was a very famous lawyer, extremely famous. I went to
Okay.
one of the top prep schools in the country, and then I went to the University of Miami there, and failed out of my third semester. Problem. The university there has a thing called the Order of the Iron Arrow, which is the highest award they can give to an alumni. My father won that. My father was also on the board of directors of the entire university the year I got kicked out. And there was also a building in the law school named after my father. So you've got to
Wow.
really, yeah, you have to really
Wow.
mess up to get kicked out
The
of a
pressure
university
that
that's
you had
building.
there, I cannot imagine it. John is like, oh my God.
Yeah, but when
Yes.
I met Roger and I came to the University of Florida where I live now, Gainesville, Florida, and I remember giving the woman my transcripts to transfer, and they literally laughed at me and said, "We don't
Okay.
want you. You know,
All right.
your grades are horrible. You'll never go to the University of Florida. We don't want you." That's
Uh-huh.
when I went to the community college where Roger became my mentor and was eventually admitted into the University of Florida. And then after I graduated, I got an alumni award of distinction as one of the top alumni ever to graduate from the college of journalism. So it was a full thing. But if I had not failed miserably, and my father basically said, "You're on your own now. You know, You failed out of college. I tried to help you. You got to figure it out.
Wow.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I knew my parents couldn't fix it. My friends couldn't fix it. The only one who could fix it was me. And that's when I just started studying like a crazy man of how to have a good life, how to be successful, how to do well in college. And
Uh-huh.
all that information came together and I used it to obviously turn the situation around. But had I not failed, there's no way I would be doing what I'm doing now.
Congratulations, John. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's beautiful, very inspirational, seriously, and it takes guts, and it takes courage, as you say in one of your, well, in many posts of yours articles, yeah. And I like the one that you say there is, well, I use normally no risk, no glory, but you say no courage, no glory, yeah.
Yep.
So having the courage to take this risk and try again, and you saw yourself so beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, I wanted to ask you as well. This impact revolution that what we're trying to do is to change the business mindset. Yes, and I
Mhm.
was wondering, in your experience, with all the startups that you had advised, the companies you have advised, what do you see is one of the biggest issues with the business mindsets right now? And what do you think is the solution?
So there's two things I'm seeing right now. I did a TED talk on the future of leadership, and
Okay.
what I talked about is three quotients you need to be successful as a leader in the future. The first is
Yes.
IQ, but it's not the number, it's competence. Are you reading, studying, learning, experience? Are you good at what you do? Competence. Then the
Yes.
EQ, which you're very familiar with, your emotional quotient, self awareness, self regulation,
Hmm.
is critical. And actually, we figured out that it's 5 to 9 times more important than competence. If you've got a good level of competence, but you don't have high EQ, it is impossible to be successful as a leader. Then the
Hmm.
third one is your AQ, which is your adaptability quotient. And with the speed of everything changing and all the turmoil around the world, people need to be really, really fast at learning new things, being agile, adaptable, nimble. And also, here's a great one, Yoshi, is unlearning things. Is this doesn't
It's
work
the most
anymore?
difficult.
Technology has changed.
Yeah.
You know, all these things are happening. I mean, 3 years ago, we never would have believed that you and I would be doing this sort of stuff all the time. I
Hmm.
live on Zoom, and 4 years ago, I did maybe one Zoom or two Zoom calls a year. Now it's
Okay.
4 a day, 5 a day. And then the
Sure.
other thing that I learned is I'm writing a book on mindset right now
Okay,
with
great.
my good friend, Dr. Oleg Konovalov, one of the top executive coaches and thought leaders in the world. And it's all about leadership mindset. And we did a
Hmm.
bunch of interviews, and I've studied this quite a bit. But I've noticed in the best CEOs I work with, whether it's small companies or Fortune 10, uh, the mindset is to hire amazing people, take incredibly good care of them. They will in turn take good care of your customers. As long as you have
Definitely.
the right processes and systems in place, you will be highly profitable. That's
Yes.
a mindset that goes from employee is my top customer. My employees take care of my customers. My process is in place. I'll make money versus where a lot of the old mindset used to be, I want to make a lot of money. So I'm going to figure out the processes to extract as much money from our customers and as much work as I can for my employees with paying them as little as I can. So I see
Yes.
that it's basically servant leadership. I
Uh-huh.
see that as a major mindset that I believe, along with the EQ and the AQ, are going to be really important going forward.
Love it. All right. Thank you so much, John, for sharing that. And I'm looking forward for this book about the mindset as well.
Me
I will
too.
love it because when do you expect that it's going to be released, John?
We're in June. It'll probably be later this year or early next year. We're
Okay, great.
just finishing up the edits right now. It's called Mind Crafting,
Mind
and it's about the
crafting.
intersection of visionary leadership, strategy, and people. So, three major areas that Dr. Konovalov and I believe that very, very successful leaders need to focus on.
Can you repeat, please? Visionary leadership, strategy, and
Visionary leadership, strategy, and then people. You might call it
people. Yes.
culture, but we use
Yeah,
the
for
word a lot
sure.
in our book. You got to love your people. Take good care of them. Think about how can I
Yeah.
make them successful.
It,
It's one of the things I learned young when I was a leader. I used to lay in bed at night and wonder how I was going to put 100 kids through college.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any kids, but I thought about all the people that work for me or with me.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
thought about the fact that I have to run the company well so that they can pay their mortgage and pay their car bills and save money to put their kids through college. So I felt like I had a big responsibility to make sure that my employees were taken care of well enough that
Uh-huh.
they could take care of their families.
Yes, yes, I love that. Finally, I think the people, in the company are the most important asset, let's say, yes. And I remember the last interview I had last week with a CTO from a startup, and he was mentioning that you grow according to the growth of your team, yes, and the growth of your people. And, there is nothing else that you can do without the growth of them. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
love it, love it.
Single
Thank you.
biggest factor in the success of a company is the people you can get on your team, grow, and keep, which means that
Yes.
talent acquisition, talent development, and talent retention should be a major strategy in every business, no matter what the size is.
Hmm. Great. Thank you for that. And in that last point, I finding out after doing a, master degree in HR management and leadership as well. It's about this war of talent. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think we are coming to a place that is going to be hard and hard to get the talent that we want, and companies will struggle a lot with this. So wanted to know what is your view about this and how do you think is the most effective strategy, yes, to keep the
Uh,
talent and to look for attract the talent as well, yeah, retain and
So
attract.
I did a bunch of research on this and did surveys
Yeah.
of several thousand high performance employees at top companies around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me there's 6 key factors they look for in the company they want to work at. The
60
first
factors,
one is
okay.
fair pay, not the highest pay, just fair pay, getting parity. As long as I make it about the same as everybody else, I'm fine. Number 2 is meaningful, challenging work. They want to work with a purpose.
Yes.
Number 3 is cool colleagues. They want to work with really smart, talented people. Number
Yes.
4 is a winning culture. They want to be in a place that's fun to work, where they're proud of where they work, that they're treated fairly, all those sort of things. Next one, which we just touched on, Yoshi, is both personal and professional development.
Mm.
Personal development is my company investing in my growth? Are they sending me to training? Do I have a coach, a mentor, a sponsor? Are they giving me, sending me to conferences? And then professional growth says, can I see a place for myself in this company 5 years down the road? Do I have a career path here? If
Mm-hmm.
you hire talented people and you aren't constantly investing in their growth and they don't feel like they can see a place for themselves, they will quit and go someplace else right away,
Uh-huh.
because it's a war for talent and they have options. Then the last one, and by far the most important, was I work for a leader I trust, respect, and admire. Most people that
Mm.
leave a company do not leave their work, their pay, or anything. They work there. They leave the immediate supervisor, manager, or leader.
Wow, that make me, vibrate. Yeah, seriously, because it's true, because it reminds me when I was working also for a company, how much I was admiring my mentor or my boss, and that's why it took me so long to quit and to leave my job because it was such a good relationship, but the culture and everything else was not for me, it was something that it took me time to really see, but. Yeah, that's very interesting. It's true. It's
Well,
true. It's leadership
if
and culture, I will say.
if
Yeah,
you're a
this
good
makes a big
leader,
difference. Yes.
you want your folks, unless they're senior folks, if there isn't a strong career path for them in your company, like I've owned some small companies, like I do now, and there's not a huge career path here. There's not 47
Mm-hmm.
levels of management. You should want your people to leave,
Mm-hmm.
not push them out, but every 3 or 4 or 5 years, if you've done a good job, they should be poached away or they should go someplace where they can go and make more money and have more opportunity. So great
Definitely.
leaders are constantly investing in their folks, knowing that some of them are going to take that. I've got a company I work with. They're constantly getting poached by Google and Facebook and Amazon. And the CEO says, that's great. I get someone at Amazon or Google level for 5 years and they
Mm-hmm.
help my company a ton. Then they move on to a great job. So that's part of loving
Sure.
your employees, is wanting them to be successful.
Definitely. Definitely. Make them grow by themselves, right? And
Mhm.
make them better than when you met them.
Yep.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I'm loving the interview, and we are unfortunately finishing and getting to the end. John, I just wanted to know what is the last message you would like to leave for startups and entrepreneurs to, as a last message for them.
I think I'm going to go back to one of the messages I said, which is ask
Yeah,
for help.
that's perfect.
Right now, we're all under a lot of pressure. You want to do better in your job, ask for help, but in your life and things like that, stuff's tough right now. A lot of the CEOs I'm working with are stressed. Not a lot of the people I work with are stressed, anxious, and you need to take care of yourself, and you need to be courageous enough to admit that you need help and ask for it, whether it's in your
Mhm.
job or in your life. So that would be I've tried to deliver that message to every group I've spoken to in the last couple of years. And that's the message I'd like to leave people with.
Again, you leave me boom, with all the emotions. Thank you so much, John. It was an absolute pleasure, seriously, to share this time with you. I would love to have had done a bigger interview, but anyway, I could talk with you for hours. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's it. Thank you so much. I like the last message that you shared. It is true that there is a lot of going on nowadays, and having the courage to ask for help is something really valuable, and also links to this power of vulnerability that you mentioned, right, in the mastermind groups. So let's leave it like that. Thank you, John. Thanks a lot, and an absolute pleasure. Next time, and we finish the interview for now. Cheers.